if I have a little sarcasm in my tone,
Right.
more than a few days in a row,
Right.
there is resentment that's building up.
If I'm aggressively scrubbing the dishes
Yeah.
and just slamming cabinets, I'm fine.
Yes,
No, we're not fine.
yes,
We're just not.
For sure. And so owning it
Yeah.
and just confessing it.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Christy Wright Show, where faith meets personal development so you can have a bigger faith and a better life. I'm so excited because today we are talking about something that will help you in any area of your life. We are talking about how to do what's right for you. And then later on in the show, I get to sit down with my good friend, author, speaker, Bible teacher, Rebekah Lyons, about her journey and how she does just that, how she does what's right for her and her family. She's been on the show before, but we are so excited to have her back. But first, let's talk about how you practically do this. How do you do what's right for you? How do you make decisions that are in line with your values, your vision, your parameters that you want to live your life within and raise your children in? This is one of those things that is so hard. Now let's go ahead and acknowledge all of the things keeping us from doing what's right for us. Number one, a lot of times we don't know what the right thing is, right? Especially those of you that are parents out there, we want nothing more than to do what's right for our kids. And sometimes it's not black and white. It's not clear. We don't know what the right thing is. Do we send them to this school or that school? Do we discipline them in this way or that way? Do we incentivize and reward them in this way or that way? We don't know. And we're learning as we go. It can also be really hard because, of course, we have the social media comparison reel in our phones 24 hours a day, showing us how everyone else is doing everything. And so we look at that mom that has it all together, or that business owner that seems to be just absolutely rocking it, or that person that is just the most fit person we've ever seen. And we look at them and we think, oh, I need to spend my life that way. I need to live my life that way. I need to make these decisions and those decisions just like those people I admire. And while we certainly can and should be inspired by people doing what we want to do, it can make it that much more difficult to discern what is right for us. How do you do what's right for you in any area of life? How do you know what that is? And then how do you have the confidence to actually do it? Well, y'all know I love a good list. So I have a list of 3 things that you can do. These are 3 practical things that you can do to do what's right for you and your family. So let's talk about this. Number 1, get the right advice from the right people. Whatever issue you're facing, whatever decision you're making, get the right advice from the right people. I'll give you 2 different examples. In one instance, I was really struggling with my son, Conley. He has got some sensory challenges, and as a parent, he's so different than his older brother, Carter. And so I'm constantly figuring out, well, how do I discipline him? Like, what is him being out of line is what is something that's a sensory issue where he's trying to tell me something is off and I need to handle it totally different. As a parent, this can be exhausting. It can be so hard to figure out, and it can be emotional because you don't want to do the wrong thing. Well, several months ago, I was referred to a counselor here in town, and y'all, I signed up for a session and I just thought, I just need to talk to someone to help me understand, am I doing the right thing? That's all I want to know. Am I doing the right thing? How do I do this? What is the right thing? Well, I spent 50 minutes with this incredible man, and y'all, in that 50 minutes, I kid you not, he changed my life. Like, he was full of grace and wisdom and advice and guidance, and everything he said so resonated with me. It was so in line with my values. It was so perfect for where I was in my journey as a parent and where my son Conley was in his age and in his development. I walked out of that room feeling, I kid you not, 100 pounds lighter. I felt like God used this man to meet me right where I was. I got the encouragement I needed when I was really struggling, but I also got the advice that I needed of how to navigate difficult and different situations with my son Conley. getting the right advice from the right people will help you do what's right for you. Now, that's an example with parenting. Let me give you a non-parenting example. I have back pain. I have talked about this on social media whenever I shared this recently, but I have a degenerative disc in my lower back that I've had since like high school. So I know how to manage this. I know that I have this pain. If I sit for long periods of time, it flares up and can become really painful. Thankful with 3 kids, I don't sit for long periods of time. But also if I stand for long periods of time, like I do on days like today when I'm shooting the Christy Wright show or when I'm shooting some other video series. When I stand, I can almost get stuck in this position of standing. And so I've dealt with this pain for a long time, but I've had this new pain in the last 4 to 6 months that is just nerve related. It sends shooting pains down my legs. And every time I sneeze, I panic that my legs are going to collapse because it's happened before. And I'm like, that's not normal. We don't need to live with this just like fear of sneezing. We don't need to live with the fear that your legs are going to give out just in the hallway when you're walking through the day. So I sought out a really highly recommended spinal surgeon, an expert in the spine, and I have been having meetings and appointments and MRIs and consults with him, physical therapy, and pursuing this path of healing, pursuing this path of managing my back pain. It's not going to be back surgery, but there are things that I can do to take care of my back and do what's right for me in my situation. Regardless of what you're dealing with, a work decision, a parenting issue, a health issue, you've got to do what's right for you. And the best way to know what that is to get the right advice from the right people. People that you trust, people that are referred by people that you trust, people that are in line with your values, those people that are experts in their space. Y'all, you don't have to go through life struggling with all the things you've always struggled with. Yes, there are some things you have to deal with, you have to live with. I will live with back pain forever. But it doesn't mean I can't improve it. Yes, I'm going to have challenges with my son Conley, just like I have challenges with my son Carter and my daughter Mary Grace. They're all very different. But it doesn't mean I can't learn principles and practices and tips and tactics to guide and parent them in the best possible way for them. You can learn from people that know things that you don't know, that are experts in spaces that you need help with. Get the right advice from the right people so you can do what's right for you. That's the first practical step that you can take. The second step I want you to take, and this is hard to do, so prepare your heart. Stop worrying about what everyone else thinks. When you get the right advice from the right people, you need to stop worrying about what everyone else thinks of you, what everyone else thinks of your parenting style, what everyone else thinks of how you manage your health issues, what everyone else thinks about how you eat or work out or clean your house. It's none of their business. It's not their body, not their kids, not their house. They don't get a say. You know, I had an experience, this was about 8 months ago or so. In the winter, we like to take our kids bowling, and the boys love it. Like, Conley loves to lift heavy objects anyway, like just exert himself, and he's freakishly strong. And so we love to go to the bowling alley. They'll lift the big balls and push them down the ramp thing for kids, and they've got the bumpers and so on. Well, the only problem with the bowling alley for Conley, who has some sensory things going on, is that it's so sensory stimulating. I mean, think about the bowling alley if you've ever been. It is loud. You've got these giant balls clanking down, the loud noise. You've got the thing that brings the ball back. You've got all the lights, the music, people. It's a lot, even if you don't have sensory issues. So one of the things that Conley does to kind of ground himself in environments that are overwhelming to him is he will try to lay down. So he'll either lay down on the floor, like exactly as you're imagining, just lay on the floor in public. It happens. In the case of the bowling alley, he laid on the machine that brings the ball back. Now, he wasn't sticking his hands in it. He wasn't sticking his head in it. He was not unsafe. But he laid his little body over it. Well, I remember being at the bowling alley this last winter, and there was another family near us, and they just looked at me like, how could you let your son do that? That floor is so dirty. Like, you could tell they are glaring at me, whispering, looking at him, pointing, like it was a scene. I wasn't being sensitive or overreacting. They were very clearly not approving of what we were allowing our son to do. Now, is the floor dirty? Sure. However, in this path that we're on, I want Conley to have what he needs to feel okay in environments that overwhelm him. Is he gonna be okay if he lays on a dirty floor? Sure, he has been in way dirtier environments, y'all. Plus, he's a second child. You kind of let things go, right? Laying on the floor is not a big deal. I had to, in that moment, decide, do I care more about what these strangers think of me that are giving me dirty looks because my son is on the floor, or do I care more about my son having what he needs? I care a whole lot more about my son having what he needs. I'll let him continue to lay on the floor, lay on the thing, lay on the seats, whatever he needed to do. And then when it was his turn, he'd pop up, go get his bowling ball, throw it down the ramp, and had the best night. Same is true for you. You need to stop worrying about what other people think of you. Some of you are making the wrong choices because you are so concerned about what other people think. You're not doing what's right for you. You're doing what you think they think is right for you. And those are very different things. Whether it's with your health, whether you breastfeed your child or bottle feed your child, whether you put them in private school or public school, whether you're a stay-at-home mom or a working mom or a business-owning mom, doesn't matter. It does not matter what anybody else thinks of you and your choices, because it's your life, not theirs. They don't get a say. They've got their own kids, their own work, their own business that they get to make decisions about. They don't get a say in yours. But no one can free you from the pressure of performing for other people except you. No one can do this for you. No one can make that decision for you when you're in the bowling alley and people are giving you dirty looks. It's up to you. It's up to you to stop worrying about what other people think of you. If you want to do what's right for you, you need to stop worrying about what other people think of you and focus on what's right for you. So the first thing that you want to do in order to do what's right for you is to get the right advice from the right people. The second thing that you want to do is to stop worrying about what other people think. The third and final thing that you want to do what's right for you is to follow through with it. Follow through with what's right for you. Don't just think about it, plan it, talk about it. You have to actually do it. I've told you guys before, I don't know who came up with the phrase, it's the thought that counts, but no, it's not. No one ever brags about what their husband thought about getting them for their anniversary. It's not the thought that counts. It's what you actually do that counts. Follow through on those things that are right for you. If that's going back to work, if that's quitting your job to stay home, if that's training for a marathon, if it's pulling your child out of this school and putting them in this school, if it's parenting your child in this way, if it's getting extra support, if it's hiring a house cleaner, if it's hiring a babysitter or a nanny, if it is anything that's going to help you do what's right for you, then you need to do what's right for you. You need to follow through on what's right for you. So many of us live in fear of what other people think or that we're doing the wrong thing, and we fear and we stew and we wring our hands and we worry and we stay stuck, and then we wonder why nothing changes. Nothing changes because you didn't change it. If you want to do what's right for you, you need to follow through on what's right for you.
We were drawn to Christian Healthcare Ministries because we both had young families and we wanted to have more children. And we had also just started a real estate company and needed to find healthcare coverage that would meet our needs.
We were attracted to CHM because of its low monthly costs and the ability to negotiate medical costs down.
Established in 1981 and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, CHM is here to meet the needs of your growing family or small business. Check us out at chministries.org.
We absolutely believe in it.
All right, y'all, I'm so excited to tell you some news that I have been wanting to tell you for a really long time. My brand new book, Take Back Your Time, The Guilt-Free Guide to Life Balance, is available for pre-sale. Now, it does not launch until September 14th, but guess what? When you order your copy now, you get over $50 of bonus items. That means an ebook, an audiobook, and guess what? You get a ticket to my event in September, Take Back Your Time Live, where I'm walking you through the content of the book. Listen, y'all, this is something I have been working on seriously for over a decade. And with 3 kids and a full-time job and a lot of interest, I know what it feels like to be stretched too thin. But I also believe there's more for you and there's more for me. There's more to this life than just rushing and feeling run ragged and being busy and burnt out. I believe that you really can create a life you love and are proud of, that you can take back your time. So get your copy of Take Back Your Time, the guilt-free guide to life balance at ChristyWright.com. All right, y'all, I'm so excited because I get to sit down with my good friend and best-selling author, Rebekah Lyons. Rebekah, thanks for being here.
Of course. Anytime with you is a wonderful time.
So this is so fun. You and I are friends offline, and we've gotten to do some work together. And I'm so excited because I saw recently on Instagram, this was a few weeks ago, that you posted that you have a new devotional coming out. And it is so beautiful. The title is such this like promise that you're like, yes, I want this. The idea of a surrendered yes. And I know you've broken it down into 52 devotions, which I already appreciate that because as a busy mom, like 100 days, 365 days, that feels overwhelming to me. But 52 devotions for letting go and living free. And man, as a busy mom, I'm like, yeah, I need that in my life. So let's just first start with the heart behind it. You have written lots of books, and I know every new book is kind of this, it's a new baby of like your heart and your dream behind it. So let's just talk about the why behind what made you want to do this.
Well, for the last few years, I wrote a book called You Are Free. And it's kind of this coming out of this season of anxiety and depression and panic attacks a decade ago. And just like, I feel like this has kind of been me kind of climbing back into health and freedom. And a few years back, I was just struck with the idea that freedom is a slow and steady process of handing things over to God. And it is this constant chronic surrender to the life we thought was going to look like, because that's where anxiety and depression comes from.
It's this was me 2 days ago, Rebekah. Teach me,
it's just
help
like
me.
There's all this disappointment and expectation that's layered, and then we put it on ourselves, and then we feel shame for feeling those things, and all of a sudden we're back enslaved. We're back in bondage. And so the idea of a surrendered yes means that we reluctantly going, God, I choose to lay down my expectations. I choose to trust that what you have, maybe for my kids, for myself, for my work, for my motherhood, for my parenting, whatever, that what you have in store is greater than what I'm trying so hard right now to clenched fist, quality control, because control is just masking fear. And so getting those things very, to the Lord, laying those down, sharing those with him, it's a daily thing. And so there's the daily yeses that shift your perspective, that allow room for the life-changing yeses that change the trajectory of where you're going. And so it's holding that tension of daily in big ways and in small ways of what is the surrender that we want to say yes to.
Yeah, you make a really good point, because even the kind of the hand motions you showed, like how we hold on to things, I think sometimes we do this and we hold on to it with these clenched fists, but we're not aware of it. I would say, when I say this is me in very real time, I was just talking even before we started recording of back to school and kind of looking ahead of where our kids going to go to school and what's best for them, and they're all different, and that changes. And I would not have said I view my life or my dreams for my kids with clenched fists. I didn't feel like that was how I was holding it until literally last week. I was having a conversation with a counselor about some of our plans, and he said some things to me that forced me to reconsider that this idea I had about the future of my kids was not what was going to happen.
Right.
And Rebekah, when I say it was like a movie scene of the walls closing in, it felt like the walls closing in, which made me, to your point, realize I had been holding it with clenched fists. But I think so often we go through we're like, no, I'm not a control freak, but it's going to go exactly like this. And if it doesn't, I will freak out. I think sometimes we don't realize how much that mental picture affects our ability to enjoy the present and even have peace about decisions that are different than what we pictured.
Right.
So what does it look like in the practical sense?
Part of it comes back to acknowledging, why do we put these expectations and parameters? Where did they come from? Why are they so deeply embedded? And I do think it goes back to kind of our upbringing of just that our worth is attached to this outer version of ourselves, this public display of am I a good mom? Am I good at my work? Am I respectable? Am I hardworking? It's there's still kind of reputation involved sometimes.
Peer pressure.
Yes, and just wanting to be enough. And then, of course, shame is the one that comes in and says, you're not enough. So then when you feel like there's a gap there between the ideal you and then what's actually really happening at home, you're kind of feeling more shame that you can't get there. And so to me, surrender is nothing more practically than going, God, I lay this down. Mother Teresa has a quote in her book, Come Be My Light, and I hope she's okay with me quoting her because it's for sale on Amazon. But it's her private writings to Jesus, and she said, when I see someone sad, it's because they're refusing to hand something over. And she's talking about to Jesus. And it's this idea of just actionably saying to God, for me, it's in the mornings, go, God, I give this thing to you, this, whether it's this child or this person or this circumstance or this situation, I give this to you because I know you love them more than I.
That's right.
That you called out destiny in the womb, that all our days were written and planned before one of them began in Psalm 139. So I can try to like maneuver things,
Right.
but in the end, as long as I'm submitting to you, coming under that and saying, yes, I trust you. Because God is always going to us our whole lives. Do you trust me? Do you trust me on the counseling couch when you're told that all the schools might look different or all the circumstances might look different? God always invites us into these big yeses and small yeses, and with the refrain, do you trust me? Do you trust me? Do you trust? And then I have to go, actually, no.
Right.
I'm now
I want to,
I'm
but
aware.
I don't. Yeah.
I wish I could, and I was in this category. And then now you're giving me this category. I can only trust so much, right? And I think part of that is just I'm a firstborn. I can kind of like take the bull by the reins. And I keep saying I'm a recovering control freak because, it's slow and steady in the right direction. But it is truly this decision daily to go, God, your plans are greater. You see things I can't see. You see the whole scope of our lives. You pull the thread. And when things get interrupted and they feel like a crazy disruption, like the last 18 months for our whole society. We're going, God, are you at the helm? Do you know what's happening? And he's like, I'm not shaking my hands. I'm not confused. Nothing that has happened to us hasn't been sifted through his hands. And so knowing that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him, that he has good plans and purposes for his children, then I can go, okay, I can't see it all right now, and maybe it's not happening on my timetable, but I know that you are still good.
Yeah, I love that reminder because it is sometimes talking yourself into it, even when you don't feel it. Even when you're like your chest is tight or tears are streaming down your face, and you're like, I'm going to say this out loud. You are good. Your plans are good. Nothing is happening to me that has not been filtered through your, like almost like talking yourself into that truth, even when your circumstances feel
100%.
very scary.
Preaching to yourself is 100% where you begin.
Well, you made an interesting point a second ago where you said the gap between the ideal self and the actual self. And what came to mind when you said that is, I think for a lot of us, and we don't have to go on the rabbit trail of social media, but I think for a lot of us, what can be even more addictive and influence us so much is the gap between the ideal life and the actual life. Because the ideal life looks like your whole family at Disney in front of the Magic Kingdom castle with Mickey Mouse ears and everyone smiling. The ideal life looks like you've got a football star and a cheerleader, captain of the cheerleader. You've got this idea because that's what you're seeing scrolling on your newsfeed or whatever. And then your reality with your kids or your schools or your vacations or your fill in the blank with whatever. Does not look like that. And so it almost I think can from a peer pressure and just even I'm sure there's a psychology perspective of this, it leads us to pursue some version, some picture that is not what God has for us. Not because he's not good, but because it's just, that's not what he has for us. That's a different plan.
You're right. And it also becomes a veneer. It's a little bit of a facade. And those looking in can almost tell, like you can watch or follow someone online where you're like, there is no way y'all are having that much fun all day long.
Your kids are robots. No kids act that good.
I mean, I've never seen a marriage that hilarious and perfect.
I know.
And I've never seen parenting where kids are just like, yes, angelic. And then what we do is we start to believe that is real. And it's not. It's filtered. It's edited clearly. I mean,
we're failures because we're not that.
Yeah. Because then all of a sudden we're like, oh, wow, I have to then double down on my control because we will be the family that looks like that or I will be the mother that looks like that. And really God is going, whoa, whoa, whoa. You actually connect in vulnerability. When you're honest, whether it's online or offline, with just the realities of trials. Scripture always talks about trials produces character, faith, and endurance, and hope, right? So it's actually a good thing that we have to sit in the middle of the tension because what it does is it makes us mature and to a point of lacking nothing in James. And I'm not saying we're anywhere near that of lacking nothing, but it does grow us. It humbles us. It helps us realize that we are not the masters of our future. And it puts us back in the seat of receiving the blessing of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think if we could lead in vulnerability, not just with God, by just saying, God, you love them more than I, you have a plan that I can't see, but even being vulnerable with each other.
Yeah.
I think if we're vulnerable with God, then we're more readily available as friends to go, well, this is what really happened, you know?
Yeah.
And when we do that, our hearts are knit, our hearts are connected. We're not trying to become something we're not. We're actually feeling seen and known and loved in the absence of shame. And in my favorite words of Kurt Thompson, he says, when we're seen and known and loved in the absence of shame, we're free to create beautiful things. But this is very much connected with our call and our vocational life, that we can be honest in that life and go, hey, we're not getting it perfect.
Right.
We're in this together. You're not alone. This is not the end of your story. Yes, you probably exploded about, with your kids, or you stalked someone online, but God isn't condemning you. He's actually inviting you into healing through freedom of letting things go.
Yeah. It's so interesting too, because I think when we talk about this, it's one of those things we all want. And then like we're saying, there's a disconnect between what we want and what we actually do. I'm curious your thoughts in this, in light of this conversation around a surrendered yes. Circling back to the idea of peer pressure, let's talk about not just peer pressure on social media, because we know that influences us, but let's talk about like real life peer pressure. And it doesn't even have to be someone putting pressure on us. It's just the, let's say, social norms. So let's say everyone in, your friend group works outside the home and you don't, or vice versa. Everyone stays home and you work, or everyone does this with their kids and you do something different. I think sometimes that almost implicit, this passive peer pressure can still be really powerful, because sometimes that peer pressure, even if no one's trying to put it on you, can be really powerful. How do you swim up current, or how do you guard against that peer pressure when it can be really strong, even if you don't realize it?
Being the outlier, which is what you're describing, is always going to be challenging. Yeah. But if it didn't include hard, it wouldn't be good, right? Yeah. So to me, it's kind of going, God, am I in the lane that you've asked me to be in? Have you made that clear? Have you consistently shown me that over a season? Yeah. I didn't start working outside the home. It wasn't because of my choice. I would have worked probably from the beginning, but with a special needs diagnosis, like 6 hours after my first child was born, I was like about a year in, I was like, okay, I thought my lane would be work, and it's actually home for this season. Yeah. And then later, a decade later, then it looked like outside the home again. And I know that God has entrusted me to do this work that looks like this. Right. And so I can walk in confidence with it. Yes, I definitely felt like failure in certain like PTA meetings because I was like, oh, I'm not giving enough over here because I'm giving over here. And God's going, hey, this is the way, walk in it. Scripture's so clear about don't look to the right or to the left.
Yes.
This is the way. Listen for my voice. It says, this is the way, walk in it. It doesn't mean that you don't have grace for all of this. You want to volunteer when you can, but I think he's very clear about staying focused and affirming what you see in these other women, right? And your friends. Like, the more we can cheer for each other, like, hey, the way you do this, you rock it. Like, you come alive, you get crazy eyes. Like, that's your thing. That's your lane. How can I cheer you on? And then when they see that in you, they're like, and God's creativity and his beauty is so vast that no two of us look alike. And can you imagine like 2 Christys or 2 Rebeccas? That would be too much. So I just think it's so exciting that I have friends that have all these unique gifts that are very difficult for me. Like some friends put things in a bowl and it tastes amazing with no recipe. And it just blows my mind.
How did they do it?
I know. And so for that, I think we really as women can celebrate each other's unique gift, God-given birthright gifts from the womb that are effortless for each of us and go, hey, keep doing that thing. I love to see that in you. And maybe for us to counter our need to compare, our insecurity, maybe for each of us would be to go, instead of feeling like I should be like them, maybe it's more about going, hey, I love that this is who you are. I love that what you bring. I love your contribution. I can learn a lot from you, but it doesn't mean I need to be like you. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. I love that distinction. Okay. So in your devotions, you break it down with saying yes to God, saying yes to yourself, and saying yes to others. Let's talk about that. What does that look like in a practical way, but also just kind of like, what are some different scenarios that might come up?
Yeah, so saying yes to God is just back to the conversation of God. What is the way that I'm supposed to walk in? And that comes through His Word, that comes through worship, that comes through Scripture, that comes through trusted friends. That God is just saying, hey, meet me in the mornings. There's conversations about morning routine, and meet me in like the cool of the day. Like for me, I like to get outside and just do prayer walks a lot. And that's more just a communion with God. What does that ongoing dialogue with God look like? Where He can just deposit all the resources from heaven, whether we're feeling stressed or anxious or, spread thin, completely overworked. Saying yes to God just means like, I want this to be first before I start to go this direction.
Yes. And He wants that. Like He wants to impart to us that wisdom. I think sometimes we think He's like hiding from us. I love how Priscilla Shire said in her Bible study, Discerning the Voice of God, He doesn't hide from us, He hides for us. Like He wants to be found by us. And sometimes we think He's like trying to hide us. Like, no, He wants, like when we get in front of Him, He wants to be found by us. I love that.
I love that Scripture says He's a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. And sometimes we miss that word diligently. We're like, well, I sought Him like 3 months ago.
Right, I tried like for a half a second and He wasn't there, so.
And so it's not that He's transactional, but He's just saying, it's like every area of life, you get what you give.
Yes.
Like if you go diligently, so the way I talked about this with my kids, it just means you show up daily if you can. You show up daily. It doesn't mean like an hour. Maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 15, but you're like, God, let's have a real honest conversation right now. That diligence is, He delights in that. He's like, oh, she really wants this intimacy. She wants this relationship. So to me, He rewards that by giving us all the wisdom and peace, when we're stressed or whatever those things are. And then saying yes to ourselves, I think a lot of times as women, we're the last ones that actually, and I put that before others because we're so—
Talk to me, Rebekah. Talk about this. This is so important.
I'm going to say this for the people in the back. We are always thinking, we're just intuitive creatures and we're embodied. Everything is in the same pot. And so we are always thinking about the other. And I'll be like 3 o'clock. I'm like, did I eat lunch today? I don't remember. Or when the kids were little, I was eating the crust of the PB&Js I was making them. So we were the last to kind of going, am I okay? So that I can actually be okay for them.
Have I showered this week?
And so saying yes to ourselves is not indulgence. It's actually honoring the belovedness that we've been given as daughters of God. And so that looks very much like some self-care, I'm like, we do not need to apologize for that. We do not need to apologize for some quiet time, for our own recreation, for girls' night out, or whatever the things that are restorative, that like build us up so that when we go back into the places where we're caring for others, we're bringing the best version of ourselves, not depleted, strung out, resentful. Hey, if you stop taking care of yourself, the first thing that happens is resentment. You can say it's fine. It's fine, but then it starts to be like, it's fine, you know? But really what's happening is internally you're starting to harbor some bitterness, and that only impacts you. It doesn't even impact the person that you're carrying it against. It only is detrimental to you. So I have to get real honest going, like, if I have a little sarcasm in my tone, more than a few days in a row, there is resentment that's building up.
If I'm aggressively scrubbing the dishes and just slamming cabinets, I'm fine. It's like, no, we're not fine. We're just not.
For sure. And so owning it and just confessing it quickly and just saying, hey, my pain is kind of spilling out onto you, and I'm sorry for that. There's a lot of grace there, but we've got to recognize it first, and we can't if we don't get any time alone to even go, what is going on with me? Why am I reacting in such a way?
Now, I know at the third section, you talk about saying yes to others, and I have a question about this, and I know we're running out of time, but I could ask you about this all day. How do you discern a surrendered yes to others and not be a doormat where you feel like you have to give yes to everyone everywhere? And this is like the ongoing struggle of the unlimited opportunities and needs in the world, and our desire to genuinely be good servants of Christ, that we're so relational as women. We want to help. Often we want to help. And man, that's a hard place to hold both of those. How do you advise people and counsel people in saying yes to others and not feeling like everything's a yes to others?
Yeah, and that's why I put that one last.
There's a reason.
Do you see where we're going here? Like, if God is at the helm and He is actually the one that's being our peace and He's giving us the freedom, and then we're actually taking that time to make sure that this is cultivated so that we give from a place of abundance, then we actually have parameters already set in place as to, it's still about the commodity of time, which I know you care a lot about. Like you only have 24 hours a day. So it's going, I'm saying yes to God. I'm saying yes to myself and my family, but then others, I think even extends a much wider net. And what that looks like, I think for me is going, God, I want to trust you with these relationships. I think most real relationships must have reciprocity. I do a chapter on friendship where not one person is the victim and the other person's the solution.
The savior,
yeah. Those never last. But where you have a real mutual submission that Christ talks about in marriages, but in friendships that like both parties come with vulnerability, both parties minister to one another. There's a building up, a cheering on. There's not competition or comparison. When you can be in those healthy places, those are restorative. Those kind of go back to the middle category of saying, like, this is a great thing for both of us.
Right.
There will be those things, though, in the others that is just giving. It's just output. And I would just say, if you can balance the output with making sure the input is the same quantity of time. And it doesn't mean that it's just me time, but it means like you're having those relationships that are still very restorative for you, knowing there are going to be challenging circumstances and situations. And I think even seasonally, summer, right? You got a long bucket of time where it's like there's more demand if you've got young kids, right? You just know that that's the lane that you're in. This is an output lane. This is
is, Rebekah. You just preach.
This is an output season. And it's funny how we're like calling that, like sometimes the home is more of an output than the work environment.
This is a vacation, okay? Yes.
I'm with you. We're all like, school. But it's good to know that in advance and prepare for it and then go, okay, because of that, we're going to have a little more buffer here and some guardrails of going, okay, this is still how I can get away and have a little bit of time. And making even home more, I think, restorative. Sometimes
How does one do that?
Well,
Go on.
I'm just saying 24 years into marriage and 20 years into motherhood, when I can let things go at home, everyone's happier. Everyone's like,
that is the truth.
Mom is not organizing the sock bin again. Thank God. Right?
Matt's like, you rearranged the room again. Are you okay?
No,
is everything okay?
I know. We were packing for my son to leave for college, and I'm like, Gabe, we must clean out your closet right now. And he's like, how is this connected? Because is this you just trying to control something because life feels out of control? I'm like, why are you shrinking? Why are you being my psychiatrist right now? Yes.
This is literally me the last 2 weeks. Go on,
But being able to recognize that going, like when I start reorganizing the pantry for like the fourth time
100%.
in 2 weeks, it's me just trying to go like, I'm not okay and I need something to be okay that I can make okay.
Yes.
So the minute I can own it and go, yeah, babe, actually, I'm really sad.
Yes.
I feel loss.
Yeah.
And I want to honor our son that we love so much, who's about to fly and launch, and we're thrilled, but I still feel sad. Yeah. And by saying that out loud, it kind of takes the pressure out of the balloon.
Takes the power off of you in a way.
Yeah. And then I'm like, okay, tonight we're just going to play. We're going to laugh. We're going to have fun. They're like, Mom, when you laugh, we're all happy. And I'm like, okay, is it that rare? Okay. But it's good. It's a good reminder that our kids get old enough to kind of share with us, like, when you do this, Mom, this kind of, because women are the barometer of the home.
100%.
You just truly are. And it's going, okay, if I take the pressure off of me, because when we're hard on ourselves, we're hard on others. But when we're gentle on ourselves, we're gentle on others. So it's partly going, God, why am I being so hard on myself? What is it that I can't let go of? Yeah. Will you show me that, like, you love me in spite of even my OCD right now? And then help me just lay that down again, just through confession. I would say out of all of these questions, the first go-to is confession. Just honestly going to the person or to the Lord, like, I'm sorry for doing that. I don't want to have control. I really want to be fun. I know I am fun. Yeah. And I received that again.
Oh my, well, this was for me today. So I can't tell you, Rebekah, seriously, how many times the Lord has met me right here on this set. Like with the team behind the cameras where he's like, I know what you need. And so we're just going to,
I think you and I are very similar. Yeah.
But I'm not alone. There's so many women watching and listening that are feeling those same feelings, that are doing the control thing, that are rearranging their pantry in their rooms. And just that word, I just want to end on that because I think that is so powerful. I think that word of just the idea of daily surrender, of laying it down, going, God, I want to be fun. I want to have fun. I know that I am the emotional barometer in my house, and I want to be wonderful for everyone to just get to enjoy this home being a place of rest and restoration. Rebekah, I'm so grateful. This was for me today. And truly, I can't tell you how many times the Lord has met me on this set with this team and just given me what I needed. But I know that I'm not alone in that. I know there are so many women listening, and they are feeling those same feelings of control and anxiety, back to school, the busy fall, and we want to do better and we want to have fun and be fun, but sometimes we don't know how. And so I'm so grateful for you teaching us today. And I just love your wisdom and love your example with your own kids and how you live this out. Okay, so people want to know how they can get a surrendered yes 52 devotions to let go and live free, which, let's just be honest, we all need. Tell them where they can get this and follow you and see everything you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Just RebekahLyons.com/ASY. We just decided to keep it simple as surrendered, yes, ASY. And or anywhere books are sold. There's a lot of free, fun gifts with the pre-order, but yes.
It's beautiful too.
Thank
I love this.
you.
I love the design.
Thank
I can't
you.
wait to dig into it myself because Lord knows I need it. Thanks for being here, Rebekah.
Thanks for having me.
All right, y'all, I have some exciting news for those of you that have a business or want one. How do you use social media to actually build your business? Well, I'm so excited to tell you about a new partner called Comment Sold. They help you streamline the entire process of someone commenting on one of your posts, and they help you turn that fan into a customer seamlessly. You can get started with a free 30-day trial by going to commentsold.com/Christy Wright. When you do, you get a free ring light while supplies last, because y'all know we love some good lighting for our selfies. So go to commentsold.com/Christy Wright to get started. Hey, are you looking to start a business? Or maybe you have a business idea and you want to get it off the ground? Guess what? You really can make money doing what you love. That's exactly why I created the Business Boutique Conference. This October in Nashville, on October 14th through the 16th, I will be joined by amazing rock star speakers like Dave Ramsey, Nona Jones, Bianca Olthoff, Jasmine Starr, and more. We are going to cover all of the topics that you care about, like marketing, branding, managing your money, putting your idea out there, getting a plan together, and everything that you need help with to take this idea and turn it into action. Don't miss this opportunity to invest in yourself and your dream. You can find out more information by texting boutique to 33789. That's boutique to 33789. I'll see you there. All right, y'all, I'm going to answer some of the questions that you sent in on social media. So let's see what we've got today. Here we go. You seem so confident, and I really think that's authentic. What are some of your insecurities? Oh, what a great question. Okay, I have so many. I am a really, really terrible singer. So like, honest to goodness, my worst fear is, have you ever seen, what's it called? My Best Friend's Wedding, where Cameron Diaz gets forced to doing karaoke. Does anyone remember this? Worst nightmare. Worst nightmare is karaoke and someone somehow sneaking me on stage. Actual worst fear. Ironically, I used to be really, really insecure about my toes. They're not attractive. Like, some girls have cute feet. I'm not one of those girls. And in middle school, kids would make fun of my feet. So much so that truly I did not wear sandals for years, because I was so insecure about my toes. And I still am. Like, I still don't love them, but I also just learned to realize that people don't look at my feet. And now I have a book cover with me barefoot. So I think there's something to moving past your insecurities while we all have them. In some cases, I try to avoid them. Like, I just avoid singing. And in other cases, we realize people probably don't notice that thing anyway. I have a long list of other ones as well, but those are a couple examples of things that I try to avoid, and an example of something that I have tried to move past. But I will tell you, the confidence piece of things is the exact thing that I teach. And that is that confidence is a skill. It's a muscle that you strengthen. And so as I have practiced being confident, practice being confident on stage, practice being confident on camera, I even practice confidence when I don't feel it. I tell you guys this all the time, fake it till you feel it. When I go to like a networking event where I don't know anyone, I don't walk in and like hide in the corner. I get over the butterflies in my stomach and I just put a smile on my face and I pretend like I'm so excited to be there and I totally know what I'm doing. Even though I don't. I'm nervous to be there and I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm nervous that it's going to be awkward and have awkward conversation, but I just fake it. I just fake it until I feel it. So I think it's a good mix of avoiding the things that are terrifying, like in my case, karaoke, getting over the things that are just silly, like my toes from middle school, faking it when you don't feel it, like in a networking event or whatever, and then over time, practicing building authentic confidence through things you do all the time, like in my case, being on stage or speaking. But this is a great question. I hope that helps. I don't know what those insecurities are for you. Hopefully some you can avoid. Hopefully some you can get over. And hopefully sometimes you can just fake it until you feel it. And over time, that confidence will become authentic. Great question though. All right, let's see here. How to find the courage to make the changes you need to make. Courage is not one of those things that you find. I mean, I hate to, give you some tough love today, but if you're waiting until you just find courage lying around, I haven't experienced that. Like, there's not one day I wake up and go, courage, there you are. No. It is literally, you will yourself to do it. You put one foot in front of the other, no matter how scared you are, no matter how much you're shaking and sweating and nervous and you got butterflies in your stomach and you're stuttering because you're just freaking out. You just do it anyway. I tell you guys this all the time, do it scared, but it's because in my experience, courage is not something that just happens. It's not a switch that you flip. It's not something that appears out of thin air. It's something you will yourself to do. It's much more of a discipline than a feeling. I never feel courageous. I choose to discipline myself, to will myself to act in a courageous way. And so that may be discouraging, but maybe it empowers you. Maybe it frees you from waiting around for this feeling that never comes. And maybe it sets a fire under you to do it while you're scared. When you act despite your fear, that is courage. Courage is more of an action and a choice than a feeling. So you don't find actions, right? You take them. I'm thinking this through out loud with you. Can you tell, like I'm processing this with you? Courage is not a feeling, it's an action. So it's something that you do, not something that you find. So whatever that thing is for you, whatever that change is, it's literally like Nike. Just do it. Just do it. Stop waiting for a feeling. Stop waiting for the perfect day. Stop waiting to be ready. Stop waiting for people to affirm you. Stop waiting until you think it's perfect. Just do it. Ready or not, you do it. And as you do that thing that scares you, that is courage. I hope that helps. And most of all, I hope you do it. I don't know what it is, but I hope you do it. All right, y'all. This was fun. I love answering your questions. Thanks for hanging out with me as always. And for more encouragement on becoming the person you want to be, you can visit ChristyWright.com.